Hello, and welcome to CivilNet. Today our guest is Dr. Antranig Kasbarian, Trustee and Director of Development at the Tufenkian Foundation. As those of you in the diaspora might know, Tufenkian has been a leader in pioneering creative solutions to Armenia's problems, and has really defined itself for its defending of Artsakhis for years now, whether in Nagorno-Karabakh or here displaced to Armenia. Dr. Kasbarian is here to tell us about a new housing project they are working on in the village of Svarants in the southern Syunik province for 20 Artsakh families. Thanks for joining us, Antranig.
My pleasure, Paul.
Well, as I said, Tufenkian has really stood out to me as an organization with Artsakhis in the front of its mind and what it does for all these years. So this project has its roots in the 2023 ethnic cleansing of the entire population into Armenia. How did Tufenkian determine how to respond to this? How did you choose your locations, and what's the process been?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And the question is an apt one. I think I need to go back a little bit and then go up to 2023. The Tufenkian Foundation primarily focused on resettlement activities in Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, where we built up settlements in the borderlands, particularly in the Lachin corridor, building houses, infrastructure, and creating community development and economic development projects. We did quite a bit. Of course, a lot of that work went up in smoke due to the 2020 war and then the 2023 ethnic cleansing. But we still believe that we did have an impact, particularly in instilling hope and providing opportunity for many Artsakhi families. When the ethnic cleansing happened, of course, like many Armenians, we jumped into the fray and provided short-term emergency assistance. But after several months, we realized that simply providing temporary housing or providing food or short-term stipends or other kinds of support wasn't going to be enough. We understood that if we were going to really help the Artsakhis not just survive, but reintegrate in Armenia, we would need to focus again on things like housing, economic development, and other sustainable practices to enable the Artsakhis to rebuild their lives. So I would say after about 6 months in early 2024, we began to think long-term and once again about resettlement. And I should say that our guiding principles were the following. First of all, we're not under any illusions. We understand that the Artsakhis won't be returning home today or perhaps tomorrow. But if we want to keep their rights alive, their right to return, their right to compensation for everything stolen from them, their right to self-determination. In the first instance, you need Artsakhis in order to be able to defend their rights. And the way the trend is going, the Artsakhis are moving towards assimilation, towards scattering to the four winds. And I can imagine in a generation, the Artsakhis no longer being a socially cohesive unit with their own identity and their own national outlook. So our feeling was that we need to bolster resettlement, but particularly community resettlement, so that we can keep the Artsakhis together collectively, maintaining their identity, maintaining their social cohesion, so that one day they can pursue their rights. It's not an easy task. I mean, the Armenian government has provided social and economic support to the Artsakhis, but mostly at the household level or at the individual level. There really isn't a push toward collective community resettlement, keeping the Artsakhis together. So we felt and continue to feel that this is a priority that really very few others are dealing with. So this is one issue. We decided on the Syunik province for a few reasons. First of all, Syunik today is the new frontier zone. If Artsakh was the frontier zone, today Syunik is probably our most vulnerable province that needs to be bolstered. So we felt that resettlement in Syunik would serve a dual purpose. First of all, many Artsakhis feel a kindred affinity for Syunik. Historically, Syunik or Zangezur represents the same populations who often speak the same dialect, same cultural practices, same land tenure practices. If you know Artsakhis, many of them have relatives and in-laws on the other side in Goris or in Ghapan. So we felt that culturally, Syunik would be a good landing spot or culture hearth for many Artsakhis. But also we wanted to create a win-win. Syunik, over the last 30 years, has thinned out considerably in its population. You have many villages that are half their size now due to emigration, due to underdevelopment. So we are looking to create a win-win where we can provide safe haven for Artsakhis, but also bolster Syunik's existing villages that are often dwindling and thinning out. So we decided to start a pilot project. And believe me, we have no illusions. This is a drop in the bucket, but we want to demonstrate proof of concept. We want to demonstrate viability by resettling between 20 and 25 families in the village of Svarants, which is found in the Datev municipality. Svarants, we found, is a congenial location for a few reasons. One is that it is a thinned out village. It's a village that at one time boasted 600 inhabitants. It's down to 100. The villagers welcome the idea of bringing Artsakhis in to rejuvenate, to bolster the village. It is in the Syunik province, but it is not directly near the line of contact, which is also important because, frankly, not all, but many Artsakhis don't want to live near the line of contact after everything they've been through. After the trauma of 2020 and 2023, we found that many Artsakhis are not looking to live right near potential hostilities. So if you know Armenia's geography, you know that the Datev province is in Syunik, but it is way up Syunik, heading towards Vayots-Dzor, about 30 or 40 kilometers away from the line of contact. So we're essentially going to build 20 to 25 houses this year. We expect to be completing phase 1 by September and welcoming new resettlers. Artsakhis, mainly young families with multiple children, and in many cases families with background in agriculture, because that is the main occupation in Svarants. And we won't just build houses, we'll also create support mechanisms, livestock, barns, fertilizer, seed stock, vocational training, to enable these people to gainfully employ themselves, mainly in agriculture. We also are helping the existing villagers by renovating their drinking water supply and renovating their community center. We don't want to create false rivalries or false jealousies. We want to show the existing community that we're there for them also and create a win-win, if you will. So these are, I think, a few main ideas. Perhaps the only other thing I should say here is, again, we're under no illusions. This is a pilot project designed to show viability. And if we can show viability, we're confident that we can attract support from larger international agencies, donors, both private and public, and scale up and perhaps do something on a broader canvas and resettle not just 20 families, but many more families in the coming years.
Well, I had a lot of questions that this partly answers, one of them being, when you put people outside of Yerevan, I mean, that's good for Armenia because we have such a concentration in Yerevan, but also there are less occupations out there and jobs. And so I was thinking, what are they going to do? But it sounds like you're saying the agricultural experience. So you're looking for beneficiaries that meet that, so they will be able to take care of themselves there.
Yes, we've had dozens of families apply to be included in our program. We've had to turn away some of them because some of them were just single people or couples. Some of them were older. And we're skewing this, biasing this toward younger families with multiple children and also people with agriculture experience.
This being kind of a proof of concept, as you've stated, is it just Tufenkian behind it at this point? Is there any public-private partnership going on, or is the government involved in any way?
Yes, so a few things there. First of all, Tufenkian is the driving force, but we're certainly not the only factor here. We've reached out to a number of agencies, for example, the World Food Program of the UN, is helping with the agricultural components. The Near East Foundation has helped us with a new chicken farming initiative for a number of families in the village. And several other international agencies have expressed interest in participating. But I will also say the Armenian government is providing support for this initiative through its housing certificate program. The Armenian government received considerable amounts of aid and development funds, which they're allocating toward housing. And the Tufenkian Foundation sat down with the Deputy Prime Minister, Tigran Khachadurian, and reached an understanding that the Armenian government would provide support through its housing certificates, which frankly make this an easier lift for us, because 20 families may not sound like a lot, but this project easily is costing $2 to $2.5 million. So the Armenian government's contribution through its housing certificates is a great help, even if Tufenkian is the driving force.
What about the challenges that you've been facing? I'm sure, there always are some.
Nothing comes easy in this country, especially in fields like this. Navigating the bureaucracy of 3 levels of government, the local municipality, the Syunik regional administration, and the central authorities, is not easy. Getting permits, licenses, getting cooperation in a timely fashion, you have to wade through a lot of bureaucracy. But we've managed to do it through a combination of patience and agility. I will say that the local villagers have been very cooperative, and I think they welcome this really as value added to their village. But I would say, yeah, it has not been easygoing. Also, frankly, construction costs have gone up considerably in the last few years. So what we could have imagined as a $1.5 million project a year and a half ago is easily over $2 million now. So it is certainly, it's certainly placed a strain on our financial resources, although fortunately through James Tufenkian and some of our larger donors, we've managed to cover most of our costs until now. And after meeting with hundreds of families, we, I think, had dozens of applicants, of which now we're going to select 20. But that has not been an easy process either. That's been a lot of work.
Yeah, you're creating a community, and you also have to make sure that they will get along with each other too.
Yes.
It's not easy.
Yes, getting these families to gel will be a work in progress. But I will say so far that is not the hard part, because many of them are eager to join. We've had to manage expectations also with the resettler population. We're not just handing them the keys to a house. We're drawing up a 3-way agreement between the Armenian government, Tufenkian, and the resettler family that they will live continuously in these houses for 10 years before they get the deed. Otherwise, you can imagine resettler families coming, getting hold of the deed, and flipping the house and moving somewhere else. We want the families to feel invested in this with skin in the game. So they need to demonstrate continuous habitation.
There are not many people who can say they're actually actively creating a new community.
Yes, it is in a way fun because it's a laboratory, creating a new community. And we have experience in that because working in the Lachin corridor was also about creating new communities. You had an interesting mix of people from Artsakh proper, Hayastansis who had come to Artsakh and ended up living in the Lachin corridor, and then additional layers, for example, Syrian Armenian refugees fleeing the Syrian civil war who moved to the Lachin corridor. And you created this sort of polyglot new community where there was none previously. So we have some experience in doing that. And I will say one important thing is to be firm but respectful with everyone that you work with. There are rules and we have to adhere to them, but at the same time, you're bringing in disparate populations. And these disparate populations are now going to mesh with villagers who've lived in Svarants for 4 generations or more. And there are bound to be some frictions or some culture clashes. So we have to be patient and remind people that we're all in this together.
Well, just to finish up, because this is a really exciting project and I'm sure some people would like to be involved out there. And it sounds like that you do have the money from at least some of your big main donors, but besides them, is the diaspora giving as a whole, and where can they give, and is there any blowback from frustrations with the war, with the government? There's a lot of negativity out there which might get in the way of some of this hopeful building.
Yes, well look, I think you probably know there is some donor fatigue and frustration after the 2020 war in 2023. Some of our longtime supporters have gotten tired and have said, Artsakhis again? And unfortunately, some of that blowback is really unfair. But we try to turn the page and say, look, Artsakh may be lost for now, but the Artsakhis remain. And these people still have social needs, economic needs. They are a viable part of the Armenian nation. We can't ignore them. We have to support them. So we are fighting through some donor fatigue and frustration, but we have done fairly well in our fundraising. I don't want to give you any illusions. Our fundraising is ongoing. We haven't, dotted the I and crossed the T on every single line item. We're still fundraising for some of the auxiliary work associated with the housing. For example, some of the economic development support, rebuilding community center and clinic. There are certain things that we're still raising money for. So I don't want to give the false impression that we're all done, everything's complete. But we are fundraising in, I would say, an uphill environment. So I think that it's important to make sure this pilot succeeds so that we can reach out to other sources as well. Community-based fundraising is one important source of funds, especially among diasporans. But look, the international agencies have expressed great willingness to support the refugee population. That funding needs to be channeled. That funding needs to be maximized. So I think more and more we need to sort of show the international community that these projects are viable, they're appealing, they're attractive, and hopefully some of the larger agencies will come on board in the next phase of the project.
Well, with your years of experience doing this, I have no doubt that you will be successful.
Oh, thank you.
And good luck with it. I'm very curious and excited to see how Svarants develops in the coming years.
Well, we'll invite you in September when we open up the first neighborhood.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. Thank you again for telling us more about it. Appreciate having you here.
Thank you, Paul.
And thank you for joining CivilNet.